Why, hello there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, my name is Mr. Dogbo333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron for the New Order as Mexico. Now, last time, we had some wannabe revolutionaries, so-called revolutionaries, step in and cause some chaos in Chihuahua. And now is the point where we throw caution to the wind. And say once and for all, it's time to crush some shit. For every strike of the pen, a horrid scream would respond, an echo following gunfire. It followed him through every execution of his joints, the screams, the explosion, the dread. In anger, Lopez Matos would crumple his letter to the president and move to draft another. Lopez Matos was never present, yet the lingering melancholy persisted. A tragedy was at his hands. Sierra Barracks raided an attack on Mexico and her people. This was a recalling of his youthful career, hiding from the armed cristeros, cursing them for their betrayal. Back then he had, daring not to speak in fear and cowardice. Maybe his tendencies then, refusing to act, directly influenced this most recent insurgency. A lot of this would have been avoided, surely, if his wards were closely decorated enough to coerce the insurgents. But alas, violence crackled through Mexico. Violence his hands failed to prevent. He sniffled, and his heavy head met with sweaty palms. The pen, now discarded, rolled across the desk, mocking the dwindling competence of Lopez Matos. The only response it seemed he could muster was a single groan, but nothing that could be placed onto paper. He lifted his head, now staring outside of his window, his eyes lost in the never-ending skies of the Mexican night. It was his fault. The skies are dark, and it is his fault. Next, sweep it clean. A nation cannot find an insurgency if anti-government sympathizers govern it. We cannot be sure how many are working for our enemies, but we know how to catch as many as possible. Wipe the slate clean. Mass firings will be carried out, tossing aside the uncertain and suspected, and replacing them with devoted loyalists capable of leading Mexico. Zarco Dennis breathed in the desert air of the southwest Chihuahua, with resolve expression of his aged features. Before him stood legions of men in formation, their faces an arrangement of anxious emotions ranging from anticipation to dread, but at the ready nonetheless. Soldiers, comrades. Last time he'd led men on a military campaign had almost been 40 years ago, but the purpose in his chest made him feel younger than any of the boys before him. More than 50 years ago on this day, I was one of you, young, brave, and strong. I marched alongside the Zapatistas to face corrupt and decadent men who tore down our democracy and their lust for our power. Our enemies, much like the ones from our nation's past, violent, unlawful scoundrels who scorn our nation's progress and seek power for themselves. His face then turned to a smile. However, I pity them, because they have to face you, the guardians of the revolution. The men brightened at that, and a cheer rang out of them. Gentlemen, I ask you to put your faith into me. I know how to fight a war like this, and will do all I can to lead you to victory and safety in the battles to come. Together, we will drive the guerrillas out of Chihuahua and preserve all we have fought and sacrificed for. Viva la Mexico. Viva la Revolucion. Viva. Anything else we can do? Let's check. We'll do this. All had seemed well for Lopez Matos. Despite the adversaries that Mexico had faced in past weeks, he can endure. Or that was what he told himself. Something had lingered on for far too long. A pain so undefeatable. That dreaded migraine. A pain that had disturbed the posture of Lopez Matos' work ethic had summoned itself. A tender blade pierced through his skull, releasing thousands and thousands of dancing fireworks that numbed his frame. The pain, this invisible enemy who hated Lopez Matos so dearly, seemed to retreat his eyelids into the rear of his head. His vision slipped, barely within the confines of his grip. Confused and dazed, with now a million creatures scurrying in front of his eyes, Lopez Matos ejected himself from his seat and sprang into the air. His mouth opened for breath, but his own lungs locked themselves in opposition. Suddenly he would stagger forward, saving himself from falling by clinging onto the frame of his desk. He could not hear the pencil and lamp crashing on the floor. Nor could he hear himself gasp for assistance. His released words with no meaning, with no sense, and with no clarity. His head turned to the left and saw a blurred crowd approaching. Lopez Matos bit his lip and his body responded with a shivering wince. The speakers silenced and the crowd disappeared. The light that the Lord had offered had begun to escape unsheathed. The diligent saber of Lopez Matos finally put to rest. His world faded to black, and the persisting screams finally ended. The candlewick is almost burned up, engulfed by the smoke. Chihuahua was a lovely place to visit at the time of the earth. It was a shame, Czar Cadenus thought to himself, that the company couldn't be the same. After some fruitless hours wasted in discussion with a fellow general, a veteran of revolution, but one who had lost his stomach for field command, Cardenas was glad to be on his way back to the federal district in the back of an air-conditioned vehicle. Taking a moment to press 2 fingers to his eyes to wipe out the tiredness, he then idly opened his briefcase to review the report of his men and his performance in the field. 2 weeks' campaign crossed with Sierra, and his men had suffered 11 men wounded in action, another 3 killed, and 1 vehicle lost to a prize explosive. On the other hand, their foes in the GPG had lost 33 men in combat. His men captured even more. He felt some pride of this performance of his men, but the numbers were still unimpressive. Estimate of the GPG's numbers suggested there could have been a small army in the north, not tiny cells that the police could have flushed out. He thumbed through the papers, overlooking the mass number of men under his command, and frowned in realization. The operation had been too large and too loud for its good. In their quest for an impressive victory, they had practically announced their plans of GPG, who had made the only logical choice: dive underground or evacuate away from his army. His mind turned to the size of Sierra and the ease with which one could hide a rebel movement within it. Cardenas' stomach churned. The road to victory would be much longer than he thought. We may need to rethink our strategy. Well, let's sweep it clean. Look at that. Burn, baby, burn. And have the reactionary careerists been done with? Yes, Secretary, all in accordance with your instructions. Also left the convenient ones, the useful elite members of the Orthodox Bree, CTM, CNC affiliates, etc. Echeverria steepled his fingers and smirked, staring at his underling through his sunglasses. Marvelous. Just what I was looking for. In a proper, suitably revolutionary Secretariat of the Interior. Carry on, then. Somewhere else in the Interior Secretariat compound, a bureaucrat began to show much more enthusiasm in his work. It's not as though I have much choice, though. They'll fire me like they did all the others if I don't. Replace me with a fanatic. Best I replace myself, then. Official did as he planned. He attended rallies and performatively shouted his approval to anything they said, without regard as to its substance or lack thereof. He hung up banners at his home and gave impromptu ideological speeches apropos of nothing at work lunches. One sentence sustained him during this period. It's all for my job. All for my pension. And now the storm moves north. If Mexico is to survive the coming storm, it needs its efforts bolstered by law and force. Madrazo signed an act of national security granting sweeping power to Cardenista and Sedena, Barrios and DFS, and our Secretary of Interior Echeverria. Together, we'll create a revolutionary force to secure and preserve Mexico. So we go ahead and switch from oppressive police to totalitarian police. Viva la revolución, flame devour, all on its path. Your results. There. We've located 7 cerebral aneurysms within your brain. Listen, the symptoms are manageable as long as you limit stress and interrupting the speech. Lopez Matos slowly raised his hand, lifting it from the doctor railing of his hospital bed, touched the shoulder of the doctor. How long until I perish? The doctor lowered his head into his chest and held on to the cold hand of Lopez Matos. With much hesitation, he spoke. I fear you will not survive past this current decade. It was like a severe burst of thunder launched directly at his chest. He had not the power to cry, but to appreciate the history of his life up to this point. Determined for the future, he lifted his hand and gave a slight smile. Everything in my life up to this point has smiled at me. It was about time I had to pay back. What the hell am I even doing? Was a primary thought in the new president's mind. Madrazo read and reread the decree presented by the secretary. National security order, expanded prison times, generously utilized preventive detention laws, expanded definition of the crime of social dissolution, militarized police duties, and created the National Revolutionary Militia. There was to be no mistake. Madrazo was going to sign the decree, but he still felt some doubt. These old guards are still my enemy, even though I sit in the National Palace. What gain do I have from the fact that the technocrats are a shattered force of these quasi-reactionaries are trying to stymie me every chance they get? He flipped over a page of decree. All these directives. I wouldn't have gone. I've thought to do this shit when I was just with Governor Tabasco. I'm gonna have to commit to sacrifice I never thought I'd need to go ahead with, aren't I? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Whew. Perhaps Lopez Matos had a point. A new decree enabling the MNR to hunt down enemies of the revolution came onto Madrazo's desk. He signed it with much less uncertainty. After all, these sort of tactics were his old friends. But it doesn't matter. I'll do what I need to do. In these few moments of time, the act was dropped. No machismo, no cyclone of the South. Madrazo takes a deep breath as the room of blanket in silence. Digests the news of Lopez Matos' diagnosis after the stroke. The great titan, the charismatic bastion and human face of the party, is reduced to a hospital bed, Mother Nature's signal. Adolfo. Are you sure you'll continue with your work? Do you need me to take the OOC off your hands? Oh, Carlos. Lopez Matos cracks a smile against the weight of the air for the diagnosis. Was a little surprised from this point. You were always the most compassionate one. I'll give you that. Of course I will work on the Olympic Committee. I'm hampered, not crippled. Madrazo returned with a smile and nodded. The old man would fight for his country until the bitter end. Despite their disagreements, Madrazo was inspired by Lopez Matos' volition, and looked up to him both as an ally and president. I'm happy to hear that, Adolfo. Still capable of so much more. Sickly Lopez Matos nodded in acknowledgement. One more thing, though, Carlos. Before he could finish, a vicious coughing attack struck him, though he halted Madrazo with his hand before he could come bedside. No more speeches and tours, if you don't mind. On September 22nd, the flash of recognition in the young man's eyes would have brought Salvador Gaitan's sidearm to his temple. Only Cacique thugs, federal soldiers, and the damn DFS knew that his face, knew his name. Now this kid was crumpling to his feet, begging to accompany the former GPG commander and his ragged man. He said he was ready to give his life to the new revolution as Arturo James had in Madeira. To overthrow the landowners and their party of brutal liars, break the haciendas apart so the last real Mexicans could take their promised land. Socialism, Cuba, and all the right sounds pour from his mouth between gasping breaths and tears. All Gaitan said in response was, "Do you have a gun?" Ask an unarmed Jacobo Gamiz, hundreds of kilometers south. His listener, the wizened old man whose cramped kitchen was this, nodded and limped to the adjoining bedroom. Moments later, he returned, proffering an ancient but proudly polished Mauser. Jacobo began to think, but the veteran waved his hand. It's from Torreon. And it's yours now. finish what we couldn't. The GPG lost the battle, but has won countless hearts. Oh, shit. Circulate the executive of the Institutional Revolutionary Party. The government has reviewed the news decree from President Carlos Aurelio Madrazo, forming the National Revolutionary Militia, whereas outside, the reaction has been rather mixed. Within the cabinet and uppermost echelon to the government proper, there's broad support. Though the sincerity of some might be slightly questioned, ulterior motives must always be accounted for. All conservatives have expressed their commitment to the revitalization of the institutional revolution. We may accordingly expect no significant obstruction to the promulgation of this decree. When the decree will have taken its full effect, the National Revolutionary Militia will be a quasi-military organization. It will be permitted only limited weaponry, but it will have intensive training in ideological indoctrination and armed as well as armed combat. Only most devoted members of the party, loyal to Mexican Revolution, should be permitted any level of advancement in this nascent institution. The National Revolutionary Militia will be answered primarily to two deputies operating on behalf of the President, namely Licenciados Cardenas and Echeverria. These two leaders will see to it the Revolutionary Militia lives up to the expectations that the President Madrazo has of it. More red dye for the shirts. Arms, once taken up in anger, cannot easily be set down. The fifth day. Fernando Gutierrez Barrios read the title, skimmed the body, wrenched open the file cabinet, and dropped the report into the bristling manila folder labeled Oaxaca. The metal drawer did not slide close with the typical forceful push. Oaxaca and its bulging brethren, Guerrero, Puebla, Sonora, and Chiapas, had jammed the once smooth mechanism. His cold eyes stared for a moment, then Gutierrez returned to his desk where he arranged his jet-black typewriter. His clacks soon punctured the air. Federal District fundamental challenge to state authority and proposed response. Guerrilla activity and extremist protests had rapidly escalated since September 23rd attack on the Madera barracks, and now pose a systemic threat to state stability. While traditional DFS methods will play a crucial role in combating these groups, they alone are no longer sufficient. Our government must study and implement the modern counterinsurgency techniques pioneered by the U.S. and Japan, adapting them to Mexican contexts. Substantial additional resourcing will be required to do so, but costs can be reduced by reactivating the detention and interrogation centers of the Porfiriato. This existential conflict will necessitate unprecedented coordination between security services and the armed forces. Half measures will not suffice. Only bold, decisive action will forestall a revolution. Federal Director of Security, Fernando Gutierrez Barrios. And so begins the dirty war. One step after another. One step, then the next. All as the doctors had ordered. Stale air. Loud, shrill noises. No voices except those of orderlies, some of whom looked visibly worried. Small wonder. The man that ruled the Mexican nation is hobbling like a toddler in front of them. No one from the organizing committees was there. The doctors had driven them away. A pang of bitterness used him. God, I want to attend those meetings again. Go help organize the Olympics once again. Would he live to see the fruits of his work? Deep down, I knew damn well what the answer is, but enough of that. What is it those Anglists like to say about life? Was it not to add all spent, or instead, but a walking shadow? Yeah, one of those. Well, his thoughts meandered. He kept on struggling forward. He wanted to see something. Something better. Actually worth fighting for. Superior to all this foolishness I used to get involved in, this pathetic court politics. Everything had gone away. To become president, he'd given up so much. His personal life was in tatters. He had too much fun. It had given Eva too much trouble. He turned a corner and a mural emerged in his sight. It portrayed happy, learned people in a wealthy, strong Mexico. What a divine thing to see. How he wanted to see that vision. How he wanted to witness its achievement before he passed on. It's for that. I've still got a little time left. I can use what little is left of this time, of this life, to do as much good as possible. Adolfo Lopez Matos, 55th President of the United Mexican States, stood up straighter. Animated by the vision of a rich country and a peaceful people, his pace pickened up. He kept insisting to himself, I still have time. The great president, human. Every officer in the Mexican Revolution knew how hard it was to remain in the good graces of the former powers that be. It was a mistake of Oxetas Guerrero Duran, formerly governor, formerly general, now defendant, to think of this era of backbiting betrayal ended 30 years ago. Then another general turned governor faced off against Mexico City and got hit with a lash. Perhaps it was the ultimate irony that this story was taking place again, but his shootout with the Federales would be denied. Take place instead in a courtroom in Chihuahua. The charge: murder, corruption, unlawful detention, criminal negligence, why not littering and speeding too. The crime failed to meet expectations. The expectations to have a safe and orderly state. The expectations to give into the complaints of squatters and anger the men that got the party where it was. To serve both its constituents and the angry demands from on high by the Sereno, who probably never saw a ranch in his life. The sentence, and it would be a sentence, that's how all things worked, would be an end to his political career and enough of a jail term to dissuade anyone from standing up to the president. But as Guerrero Duran heard the commotion from the audience, he smiled. That wasn't quite true. Sanchez Solis was in the audience. This was unexpected. Luis Encinas Johnson, the governor of Sonora. And entering right now, Governor of Durango, Enrique Duprey Astres. There were more faces in the audience, ones he'd seen before, ones he knew were with governors across the nation, or from up north. Through the television screen, Fidel Velasquez and many, many others made the same connection that Duran was making. They weren't here to see a man get what he deserved. They were there because that man could well be them. Because that man was all of them. Because it really was the old days. And like then, they wouldn't go quietly. The backbone stiffens, and the counterattack begins. I keep thinking any one of these is going to be the last event, and they haven't been the last event yet. God damn it. Let's go get some foreign assets. I'll do that. What makes a movement a revolution? Is it merely a cause for change, for justice? No any bourgeois or even reactionary can march in the name of progress if circumstances need them to. Man is not revolutionary when he says things could be better. No man's revolutionary when he advances the cause of liberation by taking the action, or he is marching with his comrades and confronts the forces of reaction head on. None knew this better than the youth of the National Revolutionary Militia. A newly formed paramilitary organization was to be led by the bold and passionate. As tensions continued to rise across Mexico, they were determined to seek out and carve them out so that revolution could flourish. Tonight, their hunt was more precise than usual now that they had received a tip on their target. He was an organizer of a synarchist, religious fascist by any other name, and they pursued him with fists, jeers, and clubs until he fled into a small church to evade them. And hesitation from the militiamen was quelled by their leaders urging them onwards. Inside, they found a man shaking but defiant and silent. When they surrounded him, demanding to know about his friends in the UNS, he didn't make a sound. When they took turns hitting him in the chest and limbs, he only grit his teeth. When their leader screamed into his face for answers, his only response was to spit into his tormentor's face. For a moment there was silence before the militia leader's face split in fury, and he reached into his pockets. 2 gunshots echoed into the night, with only the painted faces of Christ and his saints bearing witness. The roar of bullets would pale compared to the furor that their crime would unleash. The revolution will endure no matter who tramples upon them. But its enemies know this. As the crimes committed in the face of God become known to his followers, the calls for resistance grow louder. Still not done yet, Jesus Christ. rivers. That blue, which varies across the stream's length, inviting the same feeling of warmth to Madrazo, no matter how many times he looks at one. Now he sits here in Via Hermosa, looking towards something that represents life in so many ways. The Rehalva River. He floats along with the current, metaphorically, as he listens to the radio speak of a Duran trial and the hunt of the remaining right-wing and GPG guerrillas. What will the river have to look like? Sure, Madrazo rose up to the challenge and was entrusted with the burning at large of the present seat, and yet the feint of a burning sensation spread on his knee before dissipating. Each time he had risen up in the world, it had pushed him back down. He had risen up as the hand already started to push him down, starting with this. Will in time leave all Mexico asunder. Push both of them and the nation in the depths of its despair, with no wave to bring them back up. Is that what the river destined him to be? The president who doomed tens of millions to suffering? No, it will never be this cruel as the last thought Madrazo had before the whispers of fate translated through the radio. A murder. A murder of a synarchist in a church. The reports of the church backlash being told to him by the speaker is tormenting him. Just like 20 years ago, reminds him of memories of another 20-something years before the cell, No, he was the president of the United Mexican States. Madrazo would not let his past paralyze him. He would not let fate paralyze him. The true revolution would always be something that needs to be fought for. Madrazo would fight for the revolution. He would fight. And he felt the burning red inside of him shift into dark blue. As he repeated those words, he would fight. If it meant holding the weight of Mexico on his back, thousands of years after his death, it would all be worth it. The revolution will be forever threatened, forever sought, forever fought. A revolution is like a dream. When it ends, we all wake up. The dream fades and all is forgotten. There is nothing in this world as fickle as a revolution. There we are. The Southern Cyclone's relentless momentum has been choked on the hot, dry air of Chihuahua. An unexpected blow by the Guevara's GPG has left Carlos A. Madrazo revived revolution reeling, exposed and endangered by its host of enemies on the right. Corrupt corporatists, reactionary synarchists, and above all, the governor is now in open defiance of his authority, threatened to drag the Mexican nation into the darkest days of its past. But his storm has also breathed new life into the revolution's dying flame. And this backlash has awoken its true defenders. Titans of old and today's zealous youth joined to hold its guttering torch aloft, to fight and die for the shattered dream of a just and defend Mexico. It's 1965, a time where chaos and smoke obscure the way ahead and hide both friend and foe. But that bright beacon, that hope of finally fulfilling the promise of revolution's heroes, summons Madrazo ever onward. Well, there we go. I don't think... Yeah, that's not... Nothing's been updated here. Well, my friends, it's been almost, 2 months since I started this? It started about August. Yeah, this is... mid-ish August. So, almost 2 months. Month and a half, I'll say. And that has been the new Mexico update. TNO. I enjoyed that a fair bit, I gotta say. This was a very fun update. Let's go off to the devs for putting this all together. It's pretty solid all around, I gotta say. Yeah, I got no complaints really. About 3 years of content, 3.5. Not too bad overall. Almost 4, really. I don't know when the next TNO update is coming out. I heard it was going to be a few days ago, the time I'm recording this, but I'm guessing not, because I haven't heard anything from it, any updates. But, what are you going to do? I enjoyed this. Props to the devs, as always. Put together something cool here, I gotta say. And yeah, we'll see how it. We'll see what happens next time. It's waiting for the integration with whatchamacallit, the Antarctic deep freeze, I think it is. Whenever that happens, if it happens, because who fucking knows, I'll make sure to check it out. I don't know what the next series is going to be. Grad school's starting to pick up, so I don't know if I'll have much time to really get anything going, but we'll just have to wait and see. In the meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and leave things there, my friends, but thanks always for watching. Take a quick look at what's going on in the world. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave things there, my friends. I thank you, as always, for watching. Like this video, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. Leaving comments, feedback down in the comment section below. I read all comments get, and I appreciate anything you might have for me. Check out my various links down in the description box below. Leaving comments, feedback down in the comment section below. Or suggestions for the next series. Yeah, this was a pretty big series, despite how long, how little, like, year-wise the content is. There's a good amount of, like, reading stuff. So I'm probably gonna go for something smaller for the next series. Probably gonna take a break from TNO until the next update comes out anyway. But yeah. Yeah, we'll wait and see how this all ends up going. Hit the sub and notification bell to see how that goes when it comes out. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave things there. Thanks so much for watching, gang. My name has been Mr. Dogboat333. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.